The following podcast contains spoilers and is spooky as f***. We watched a fish, a fish, a fish, a fish, a fish. We watched a fish, a fish, a fish, a fish. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of Spooktober. In case you've forgotten, I love horror movies. My wife Newski doesn't, so I'm making you watch them. And how have you been going with it so far, Newski? Last week we watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and you liked that.
I did. It was an excellent film. Still a little nervous going in because I don't like horrors, but keeping an open mind.
Yeah, well, part of this is I want to show you that horror films can be fun. They can be, you know, really, like, give you a good feeling after you watch them. So,
I wouldn't say a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely. That's what October is all about, man.
Okay.
So, last week you said you wanted to do a ghost movie next. So, I had to think about what I thought would work for you, and I settled on 1982's Poltergeist. Now, you have not seen this, is that right?
I have not. I have often thought maybe that could be one I try. It's a little older now, so often the scary effects don't hold up so well. I'm intrigued. I'm interested.
So what do you know about Do you know anything about this movie? Like,
No.
Really?
I see a creepy girl on the poster with her hand on the TV. I assume she gets sucked into the TV or something.
So you know about yeah, okay.
That's about my level of horror. That's good.
All right.
I hope.
I'm pretty excited about this, so let's get into it then. Poltergeist is a 1982 American supernatural horror film directed by Tobe Hooper and, wait for this, written by Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
Michael Grais and Mark Victor from a story by Spielberg. It stars JoBeth Williams, Craig T. Nelson, Heather O'Rourke and Beatrice Straight, and it was produced by Spielberg and Frank Marshall.
Craig T. Nelson. He's the dad from Parenthood. Yep, cool.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Glad I got that out of the way.
Also a dad in this. Does knowing Spielberg's involvement in this give you any hope that maybe this will be up your alley, or
is a heartwarming horror a thing?
Oh, I was going to say, does it surprise you to hear his name linked to the horror?
It really does. I mean, E.T. freaked me out when I was a kid, so
yeah, I mean, lots of child actors in that. They are pretty horrific, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Okay, we'll see.
And as mentioned, I'll be pairing beers with our horror movies.
God.
So this week I've chosen a nice dark stout called Surrender to the Void.
Is that a clue for me?
Nah, well, maybe. It's not as scary as it sounds, though, because it's Rocky Road flavoured. So it's
most of your beers are actually dessert. Liquid dessert.
All right, are you ready to get spooky?
No, never.
Let's get spooky.
Stop that. That's so annoying.
All right, Poltergeist. How did you feel about it?
That was great. It was excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah. That was just my level of like scary that I like.
Okay, good. Well, let's do this first then. On the Halloween spooky scale, were you scared at any point in this movie?
I think I jumped twice, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a couple where I thought, oh, that was supposed to be a jump scare, but I didn't jump.
Right.
And the effects haven't held up too well, so that helped.
Well, Poltergeist is widely renowned as a major critical and commercial success. It was the 8th highest grossing film of 1982. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, and it was named by the Chicago Film Critics Association as the 20th scariest film ever made.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The scene with the clown doll was ranked as number 80 on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and the film also appeared at number 84 on the AFI's 100 Years 100 Thrills list.
I did not like the clown. That was one of the times I jumped.
You know what? I've seen this movie a lot, and I saw it a lot as a kid. I forgot how much iconic shit was in this film. Like, obviously, I remember the ghostly stuff. Like, everyone remembers the little girl and the TV and they're here. Like, that's just a line that stays with you. I had forgotten that in this movie, we also had the creepy doll. We had the wolf beast in the closet. You had that iconic scene
with the mum
of JoBeth Williams being pulled up the ceiling. I forgot that all of that was in this film.
And the long hallway. I mean, I assume, The Shining would have come before this. So that's a famous scene from The Shining, isn't it? Don't know.
There is a hallway scene in The Shining, yeah.
I don't know why you have me here to talk about this.
Even the classic scene, and I'll always remember the lightning storm scene with the creepy tree out the window, which has become so iconic. You know, like The Simpsons riff on that nearly every Halloween special with the treehouse, and I had forgotten that came from this film.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of tropes that I've seen in other horrors, but I wasn't quite so scared in this. I found it really enjoyable, actually. It was quite funny at times too.
Yeah, okay. So let's start with, as I mentioned, it was written by Spielberg from a story by him. So Tobe Hooper was hired to direct because of his work.
I think you mean Tobe.
Tobe. So
when his name came up, I was like, Tobe, and you were like, Toby, and I was like, with an E? Really? That's stupid.
So he was chosen by Spielberg to direct this because of his direction of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a much darker and grittier film.
Yeah, I won't watch that. You'll never get me to watch that.
There are always rumors that this film was actually directed by Spielberg.
It feels like it.
Feels like it. I know for sure there has been proof that he, I think, assistant directed on one scene or for one day of shooting or something. And so this perpetual rumor has come about that he directed the whole film. I do think it's amazing how much this movie has that feeling of a Spielberg film.
Big time.
But I don't think he directed it. I think this was our man Tobe.
What else has Tobe done apart from Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
He did a shitload of horror movies, actually. Pretty much all horrors. He's
any as heartwarming as this one? No.
No, okay.
No, I think it was Spielberg. Yep, you're wrong. I'm right. When you see that opening shot, like it's, you know, there's been some story taking place and then it's sort of like roll credits and the music is swelling and there's kids playing in the street and it's just this panning shot of like suburbia. I was like, oh, such a Steven Spielberg film. And then his name came up and I was like, yep, okay.
The movie has such a level of nostalgia about it, which only Spielberg films can.
If you're a kid from the 80s or 90s, I think this would really resonate with you, this film.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I do find it's funny. Most people would not say this, but kids are way better behaved today than they were back then. Holy shit.
I think everybody would say that.
Those kids were assholes.
Well, kids, I mean, think about it. When was the last time?
Knocking that guy off his bike.
Yeah, but when was the last time you saw kids just hanging out on the street?
Yeah.
Like, you don't see that. Like, I remember doing that as a kid in the 90s, but even by the 90s, it was parents were starting to clamp down on that stuff.
Yeah, the opening scene actually surprised me a bit. The American national anthem playing.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like the coming out through the TV was cool, but I just was not expecting that music. It was just really surprising to me to start a horror that way.
That's a TV thing. That used to be when channels were about to go off air because they didn't play stuff all day every day.
No, I remember that.
So it would stop at around 2 a.m. I can't remember what they used to do here. Like I remember like Rage used to be the last thing on at like 3 a.m.
Rage was always on. Rage never ended.
I remember like certain times it would stop and I can't remember if we had a message, but in the States they would play the national anthem to play out the station.
Can't do that in Australia. They'd be like, what the fuck are you doing, mate?
Yeah.
Stop that. Stop that shit.
And it's so funny, you know, and that's where I think you get that real Spielberg sense that the amount of pop culture references in this film that really set that time and place.
So much Star Wars paraphernalia.
There's a lot of Star Wars.
So much.
While we were watching, you had a bit of a, you know, you were like, oh, well, that's just like product placement. But I don't know. I kind of feel like a kid's bedroom in 82 probably would have looked like that. Like Star Wars was a big deal.
I agree, yeah. But that bedroom, even though it's a brother and sister sharing, it is Star Wars, a clown, and then her bed.
What is with the clown? Like
fucking hell, that clown.
Even before the clown turns evil, it's fucking terrifying. Like no kid would want that doll. Like
That's not true. That's not true. Our youngest would. She is obsessed with clowns. Remember, she wanted to get you one for your birthday, and our eldest was like, "Drop it. Daddy would hate a clown. They're fluffy like birds. Enough."
I do hate birds.
Yes. She loves clowns for some reason.
She's a creep, though.
Yeah, she is. Like she's that little blonde girl sitting there in front of the TV. I was like, that's our kid. She's going to become possessed. Our kid's already possessed, I swear, every bedtime.
I think that this, it sounds weird, and I don't know if it's right, but I would almost go so far as to use the words family and horror film together in this film. Like,
possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I did find the eldest daughter was mildly irrelevant to everything.
Yeah, okay.
She's never there. She's never involved. I don't know, like, maybe she's there at the end for the scene because it's like, get in the fucking car. But, like, otherwise, why? Like, the story very much works without her.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that's something I actually like about it. It's funny, you know, like, obviously there is the rule of Chekhov's gun. You know, if you're going to introduce something in the first act, it should have a purpose. I understand that. But at the same time, like, that's not the way that real life works and the way that families work, you know? Like, I actually don't mind the idea of just having a character there because she's a member of the family. I don't think everybody needs to necessarily have something to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of found her irritating because every so often she'd pop back on and I was like, oh, that's right, I forgot about you. Like, yeah, I found her a little distracting to the story. Whereas their relationship with each other I found really interesting and quite modern for its time. And I found their relationship with their two children much more interesting because the boy, you know, he goes to get sucked into the tree and then the little girl is the one who gets sucked into the TV. Yeah. There's much more going on with them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, younger kids are creepier. And
Topher would say so.
Yeah. And I think, you know, like, I think we'd had a lot of horror movies around this time focused on older teenagers. You know, like this, like, obviously in the 70s, we had the rise of the slasher flick with films like Halloween, focused on, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis. You know, like, you had the whole trope of the 16-year-old babysitter. And to my memory, this might be one of the first movies that kind of flips that she's not really a key player and we're focusing on these young kids, you know, like E.T. with monsters.
Yeah. It felt like E.T. meets a horror film.
Let's talk about the acting in the film for a moment. Like you kind of said, there's a lot of scenes here that it's very much centered around the family. The young girl, Heather O'Rourke, is quite a central player. Although it's funny rewatching, she's in the TV for a large chunk of the film. There's a lot of the film where she's not actually there.
And then I found once she came back, I suddenly was aware at how terrible an actress she was.
I don't think that's fair.
I mean, yeah, she's young, whatever, it's fine. I didn't notice it at first as much. Maybe less was required of her at first. Like, she was just kind of cute and they're here. And although she did get over the death of her bird real quick.
Oh, but that's kids, man. That's kids.
It did remind me of your little sister.
Yeah.
I wish I had a bird.
You have a bird.
Yeah, you have a bird. It died.
So
you cannot flush a bird down the toilet. P.S. What the hell was that about?
Well, she didn't do it in the end, did she?
Yeah, only because her daughter saw. Ew. No. And imagine the blockage. Oh.
Yeah. Although American toilets are much bigger than ours. You know, maybe they do bigger but they've got a much larger passageway than our toilets.
Oh my God. I feel like we've gotten off track.
And they're so full of water.
Yes.
Like, you sit down, well, you wouldn't know this, but your balls dip.
Ew.
They are so full of water over there.
You should cut that out. That is disgusting.
I refuse to.
And Billy's listeners left in droves.
So that role was actually considered to be given to Drew Barrymore, who, of course, was a child actor at the time. This was the same year E.T. came out.
Oh, okay. I do feel like perhaps she would have done a better job. We know Drew can act. We've seen it.
Heather O'Rourke, to my knowledge, was not an actor before this. She was in a family of actors, and that's where Steven Spielberg came across her. He was eating lunch at, I think it was the Universal lot or something, and her older sister was filming something there. Oh. So Heather O'Rourke was having lunch with her mother, and Spielberg just saw her and was like, she'd be perfect, waltzed on over and offered her the part like that day.
Oh, that's a little creepy. I mean, I'm sure nothing untoward happened. I don't know. Hollywood's a dark place, but...
Oh, I'm not Spielberg.
But imagine, did he have the reputation he has now back then? And also, like, you remember you and Topher were going to... like, go to a party with Weinstein, and fuck, thank God we didn't. I would have gone with you. Yuck. It's creepy to just go up to someone and be like, "Your daughter is the perfect look for I'm looking for."
It is a bit creepy. So you knew nothing about this film, so I'm guessing that you don't know, or have you heard that this film is cursed?
What? What do you mean?
So
why would you tell me that after I've watched it?
the older sister, Dana, died just after this film was released, very tragically.
I feel bad ragging on her now. You could have told me that.
The little girl, Heather O'Rourke, she went on to star in the next two sequels, Poltergeist 2 and 3.
The sequels.
Which came out in the next, 3-4 years after this. And then she died just before Poltergeist 3 was released.
You could have told me that before.
Multiple heart attacks, like
I said she was shit.
12-year-old girl.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's spooky, right?
What about the brother?
I don't know. Nobody cares about the brother. I think he's...
God, he's an ugly kid. My God. Jesus. As someone who had buck teeth growing up and quite frankly still does, I feel for him. But I was just like, mate, paper bag.
He probably grew up to be a slamming hottie, though. Like, look at fucking
Neville Longbottom.
I was just going to say, look at Neville Longbottom.
Damn.
It's always the utmost, mate. That's the hope I'm hanging on to. I'm hoping that one day I'll turn. I'll be like, I'll come out of my cocoon as a beautiful butterfly.
You're already beautiful, honey.
You. So the theories that the franchise is cursed because then multiple actors from the second one died at the time of release as well.
Ooh.
And there is a rumor, and it has never been proven, but JoBeth Williams, who of course played the mother in the film.
Slamming hottie, as you kept saying.
Oh, such a babe.
Okay. She's fine.
She came out saying that, the skeletons in the pool? Real skeletons.
No.
She said at the time it was cheaper to use real human skeletons than it was to use plastic ones. And so they used real human skeletons.
No,
and
they didn't.
That's what she says. And
but then
that
all
is
the
why the
bones
film
would
is cursed.
float away separately.
They
were
know.
whole skeletons.
I don't know what to tell you. Maybe they glued them together. I don't know what to tell you. But that's what she has claimed, that it was cheaper to use real human remains.
I'd have refused to do that scene.
It's horrific.
I am not a squeamish person, you know that, but I would not want to be floating around in mud with real skeletons bumping up against me. No. No.
Such a great scene, though. Like I said, I honestly had forgotten how much came from this film.
It really made me laugh, though, that my favourite Simpsons Treehouse horror. You didn't tell us this was built on an ancient burial ground. Well, that's not my recollection.
He says he mentioned it 5 or 6 times. But how great is Craig T. Nelson in that moment?
Yes.
When he's shaking the guy and screaming at him. He's like, you moved the headstones, didn't you? But you didn't move the bodies. You didn't move the bodies, didn't you?
No, his best moment, because let's face it, he was actually quite useless for most of the film. He was. I liked their relationship, but yeah, he didn't actually do a whole lot in terms of being helpful. But I really liked when they finally at the end, the very end scene is them going to the hotel room and he just pushes the TV out, leaves it out on the balcony.
Yeah, great moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a good moment.
He literally, he has one job.
Perfect way to end it.
He has one job. He's the key guy. He has the car keys. He has the hotel room keys.
He fumbles with every fucking key he ever holds.
Get it,
mate,
right.
Just these are keys you use multiple times a day in your everyday life. And he can't get it together. And I know it's a stressful situation. Come on, mate. This is your one job. Your wife has done everything else. She has saved the children thrice over. Yeah. And you're fumbling with keys again.
You stick it in the slot and you twist it. It ain't that hard, mate.
That's what she said.
Speaking of JoBeth Williams doing everything, not only is she a complete slamming hottie, which she absolutely is, she fucking rocks in this movie. And I think
she's great.
I think that she is a large chunk of what makes this movie work. And the reason I think that it has this kind of fun family feeling is for the first half hour or so, even when there are ghosts, it's treated not in a horror way. It's treated in a fun kind of discovery way, much like the discovery of E.T. You think of the scene where she first discovers it when the kitchen chairs are moving.
Yeah.
That's not a scary scene.
Oh, it is a bit freaky at first when she's like, oh, I've told you to stop moving the kitchen chairs. And then, she turns away and then turns back and she screams. That freaked me out a little. But then she approaches it with a sense of humor. And I don't know if that's because they're portrayed as sort of young, fun parents anyway. Like they're, smoking in bed, or maybe that's just what you did in the 80s. I don't know. But, they're constantly having fun together as a couple while parenting. And I don't know. I felt like it was quite modern for a film from then. And I really liked their relationship.
I agree. I think that their relationship definitely goes a long way to what makes this movie really work.
Yes.
But that scene where he comes home and she's like,
she's marked out
you got
the
to
floor
see this.
and,
And then she puts the helmet on the kid.
That's where I drew the line. I was like, okay, it's always good to approach some creepers in your house with a sense of humor. Don't know if I would be using my child as a test dummy. Oh, sure, put a helmet.
Would.
Put a helmet on. She's totally safe.
But
I'm like, what? You're basically asking for her to be possessed and taken.
But then she's trying to convince Craig T. Nelson to do it too. She's like, come here. You got to try this.
Yeah, it was a funny scene. I didn't like her cavalier attitude, though, towards the builders they have at their house doing the pool, harassing their eldest daughter. Her daughter gives them the finger, and she's, of course, proud of her daughter, as anyone would be. But she doesn't do anything about it. If those were builders at my house, I'd be like, you're fucking fired. Out you go. What the fuck?
It was the 80s.
And this is why in 2021, women still have to put up with this because we're like, well, men are creepers. Oh, well.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Now, right after that scene in the kitchen where they first discover the ghosts, there's a weird cut.
Oh,
and you noticed this as well, and you thought maybe I had a shitty copy or something.
I did. I accused you. I was like...
I know. You pointed at me and screamed, "J'accuse!"
I don't think I did.
No. That is how this film goes.
Really?
Yeah, there's a very weird cut in the middle of a sentence, in the middle of a scene. It just cuts to the next scene.
So why? Because someone either should be fired or...
There are theories about this. The prevailing theory, the one that most people kind of go by. You'll remember that earlier in that scene, there's a mention of Pizza Hut. When she puts the helmet on the little kid, she says, "Don't worry, we'll go get Pizza Hut after."
Yeah.
The prevailing theory...
Remember Pizza Hut?
The prevailing theory is that the scene continues, and later on in the scene, Craig T. Nelson says, "I hate Pizza Hut."
Oh.
The theory goes that the film had been edited, had gone to print, was about to be released. Pizza Hut, I don't know whether there was an advanced screening or something, they got wind of this and they said, "Cut that fucking shit out or we will sue." And because the film had already gone to print, they couldn't just cut the line out. So all they had time to do was this sloppy, cut the rest of the whole scene.
And I assume it would have been filmed back then. So
exactly. They just had to splice that bit out and just stitch the
because it's really bad. If I notice bad editing and I don't notice anything, then yeah.
So that's the prevailing theory. And there are kind of versions of that part of the script floating around online where the scene continues and
he says, "I hate Pizza Hut."
He kind of freaks out a bit. There is a line about him hating Pizza Hut, just a throwaway joke.
Because what parent enjoyed Pizza Hut? God, I would hate to go there now as a parent. I loved it as a kid.
Oh, man.
I know you would still like it.
I'd give up my right ball to go back to Pizza Hut, honestly.
There's too much balls in this episode and you need to tone it down.
Honestly, the all-you-can-eat buffet, do you remember the all-you-can-eat? In fact, I have vivid memories of eating Pizza Hut the night that I watched this movie. I remember watching that pool scene and eating pizza, and it was the greatest night of my childhood life.
I loved Pizza Hut too. Not as much as Sizzler. Ew. Sizzler. Gross.
But anything with an all-you-can-eat dessert bar has my heart until the day I die.
Isn't there a legendary story of you eating and eating and eating at the bar, not even walking back to your table, and then you vomited fried rice everywhere?
Yeah.
What?
Not at the bar. As I was walking back, I was like, I feel a bit sick. And I just walked and spewed all up the hallway as I walked back to my family's table. Because that's the kind of guy I am.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's the prevailing theory. The other rumor, which is less likely, is that for the rest of that scene, they light up another joint. And because they wanted to keep the film family friendly, one scene of them smoking a joint in bed was fine. 2 scenes was too much. And so at the last minute, they were like, no, we got to cut it. But I think the Pizza Hut one makes sense.
I mean, if that's the case, no wonder they went out of business. Because a child saying in a film, I don't like Pizza Hut is one thing. An adult saying it, well, yeah, of course. Whatever. Get over it, Pizza Hut. Fuck off.
You got to be so careful, though. Like, I remember being told, you know, like if you're filming anything, like when I was pitching sitcoms or something, for example, you can't write an episode about people playing Monopoly, for example, if something bad happens that is caused by the game, you know, like,
oh my God,
like you can't, even if you have a throwaway joke that's like, oh, Monopoly killed my family, if you don't explain how, you're liable to be sued because you're giving that company a bad name. You got to be real
This is
careful.
the world we live in.
That's why most films use fake. You know, you think of the Nails cigarette company in the View Askew universe, or, you know, if you ever see people drinking, you'll always notice that the labels are turned the other way, unless it's clear product placement.
Unless it's a Corona.
Yeah, because you can drink anything you want as long as it's
a Corona. Jesus, I did find it a bit strange that in the scene. Where sort of it all starts to properly take place, the horror, I suppose. The storm outside is bothering the kids. Close the fucking curtains.
Yeah.
Like, why do those parents shut the door but will leave the curtains wide open?
As a parent, closing the curtains is like 101. You learn that early. Like, as soon as you hit daylight savings here and it's bright outside at 7, you close those curtains up. You're like, no, it's dark. Yeah. It's dark out there.
Yep. It's definitely dark. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you would close those curtains if you don't want those kids coming out.
Blackout curtains is the first thing you buy as a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did find it a bit strange that they made a point about, it was here before my company built the whole neighborhood. Just a casual flex from Craig T. Nelson, like, oh, look at me. My company built the whole neighborhood. I like that they built it around the tree. I don't believe for a second that any modern development would have centered around an old dead tree.
You know what? There was this rumor when I was a kid. The suburb that I grew up in had this street called 12 Trees.
I know that street.
And there was this prevailing rumor that, oh yeah, there's these 12 really old. And every kid would be like, oh yeah, I have one of those trees at my house. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny what kids will claim they have?
Yeah.
Going back to where the mum is experimenting using her daughter as well, and the chairs have moved. That part, actually, I think was the first time I jumped. The little hand reaching up to pull her mum's shirt at the back. Yeah. That was a very clever shot.
Yeah.
That little hand, I have little hands pulling up and tugging at my shirt all day long, but fuck, that freaked me out.
It did. And, like, it's funny. You know that it's her.
Yes.
But because of the way it's framed so cleverly, where you can't see her body in shot
and I wasn't expecting it, even though I knew she was there. Like, oh, clever.
Yeah, it's very clever. It's not really all that faked. You know, like, her hand moves up very quickly like a child's hand would. Yep. But yeah, it's freaky as fuck when it happens.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I jumped slightly. One of the things I really enjoyed was that the parents, instead of going to the police, went straight to the X-Files team, their local X-Files. And I was like, you know what? I like you two even more. It was another part of their relationship I enjoyed. And that we didn't have that whole... It's used so often, and it's not necessarily always the wife, but it was in, what was the film you made me watch a while ago and I hated it? Insidious?
Yeah, yep.
You know, and Rose Byrne is like, something's wrong in this house, something's freaky, I can sense something, things aren't normal, and her husband's not believing her. It's not always the wife or often it is, but from the moment freaky things started, it was the pair of them together.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Of course the little girl is going to be possessed. She carries Luke Skywalker around in her mouth. What's that about? She's too old to carry things around in her mouth like that.
I carry things in my mouth.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Yeah,
you're always fidgeting with things.
Yeah, if my hands are full and I've got to carry something, I'm using my mouth. You've seen me before when my smartwatch goes off. I'll use my nose.
You do.
I'll scroll on my nose and like dismiss the notification with my honker. Like, I'm not going to waste my fingies on that.
Don't say fingies. Oh God, we haven't spoken about the real MVP of the film, the Golden Retriever.
Oh,
Such a good boy.
Yeah. I was
Or
going to
girl.
say the MVP of the film is JoBeth Williams' sports jersey.
Oh,
I think this film had
Slam
to
and
be.
Hottie, we get it. Yep.
This film, at least for me, is the reason why women in sports jerseys are so attractive.
I don't know if it's this film, is it?
It has to be.
Okay. I can't comment on that. Hate sports.
But yes, back to the dog. Great dog.
I love that dog. And then when they're sending the kids away, the dog's like, nah, fuck it, I'm leaving too, and hops in the car. I was like, best boy ever. I love golden retrievers so much. I really enjoyed the music in this film.
I was just about to bring up the score. Jerry Goldsmith, who, classic. It's funny, his name isn't as well remembered as, you don't think of like John Williams, for example. But, I mean, Jerry Goldsmith did Planet of the Apes, Chinatown, Gremlins, Total Recall, Air Force One, The Mummy. Like, he's done some slapping scores. And this one is right up there. It is exciting. It is scary when it needs to be. It's memorable. It's a great score.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I found it, maybe it's just the strings and then later on the kind of the growling and the vortex and stuff. But I just felt like I was watching Stranger Things, but not Stranger Things now set in the 80s. Stranger Things actually from the 80s.
Yeah. Let's talk about the visuals for a moment while we're on, cinematography and score and everything. You said at the start that a lot of the effects don't hold up.
Yeah.
And I think it's about 50-50 for me. I think there are some that hold up really, really well.
Like which ones?
When JoBeth Williams is dragged up to the ceiling. Flawless.
Yes.
It's a great looking scene.
It is. You're right.
The creepy clown, beautiful design there.
Yep.
I think there's quite a lot that holds up. I think particularly anything that's practical holds up really well.
Well, I was just about to say, it proves once again my point that practical effects hold up always better than, because when there's stuff flying around the room, they could have done that practically, but they didn't, and it looks awful.
Yeah.
The big growly skull thing that comes through, that was one of the other times I jumped, but it was more just the shock of it. I wasn't actually scared at any point by it.
The
I'll tell you what I was scared
which
by.
may or may not be real skeletons,
Yeah.
scary as fuck. That whole scene with the pool and, they're covered in mud and it's such a great scene.
I think it's more scary though, because you just don't want to be JoBeth in that moment. You don't want to be like floating around in mud, terrified for what's happening to your children and having dead things bump up against you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was actually fearful myself watching it.
Yeah, okay.
Like, there's a difference between the horrors that you make me watch that I don't like Insidious.
Yeah.
Hate that shit, where I'm constantly on the edge of my seat in a very unpleasant way, versus just like, ooh, that would be gross for that character.
Yeah.
Like the scene with the steak. Also, what the fuck?
Oh.
Who goes to someone's fridge, takes out a chicken wing, starts eating it? Like, you're a guest in their house. Takes out a steak. Those things aren't cheap. And then, the maggots and the way it crept along like a slug.
That holds up great. The way that steak
well.
moves, like how it kind of lifts its middle up. Like you say, like how a slug pulls itself.
It was gross.
Fucking great. But anything that is digital, all of the effects, as you say, when she gets pulled out of the TV and you've got kind of like digitally drawn light of her kind of wisping out. Any of that stuff with the kind of vortex is all really bad. You know what held up better than I thought it would, though? The collapsing of the house.
Yes, actually.
At the end, when the house folds in on itself.
Just sorry.
You're thinking of Treehouse of Horror?
Yeah. What's that line? It chose to destroy itself rather than be with us. Can't help but feel a little rejected. It just made me laugh.
Yeah. But that held up so much better than I thought it would. And I'm sitting there as a visual effects artist trying to work out how that scene was done in 81. And I have to be honest, I struggled with it. There must be a combination of matte paintings but it holds up really exceptionally well, that scene.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I did find any time that the TV was on, and it was on the, what is it called? The popcorn? That's what our daughter calls it.
Yeah.
What is that called?
Static.
Static. That's right. Our daughter calls it popcorn.
Yeah.
The popcorn channel. Anytime that was on, I understand they have to add an element of lighting to every scene because it's for film and it's not real life. But the strobe effect was too much. Like, as a viewer, I found it really hard to watch.
Yeah, okay.
I felt like I was, watching a disco or something.
Yeah. See, I don't find that at all. I find the lighting in this film really beautiful. And it's obviously lit, like this isn't what you would call natural lighting. But I think for the most part, it lends itself to the action really quite well. Like, obviously, the static from a TV doesn't strobe as much as the look we get.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's a really nice look that, and it's become so iconic as well, just, that if you see someone sitting in the dark with the TV flashing on them, I think of this film straight away.
Okay.
I
know why they did it. I just felt it was a little too much.
Yeah, okay.
Too much strobe.
Fair enough.
Another that held up really well was the guy visualizing that his skin was rotting off his face.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, though, that if I see my skin potentially rotting away, the first thing I do is start to completely pull it off.
That's not true. You would. How many times do you have a scab and you pick at it and you pick at
but
it?
I want to preserve my face. I don't want to get rid of my face. And he is like, hey, oh no, it's rotting. And then just pulls his face off completely. I'm like, mate, what are you doing?
I don't know. I think you'd be kind of freaking out.
Help.
You would feel like your face is kind of falling off anyway. So you'd be like, I don't know. I think of it as, you would think in some way that you're helping. It's
I like that he didn't return. She was like, this one will return, but this guy won't. And I was like, yeah. I really loved that woman, leader of X-Files gang.
Yeah.
I loved her relationship with JoBeth Williams. Them chatting at night and drinking together. I don't know. It just gave me a good feeling.
Yeah.
The relationships in this film were what had it for me. I felt like I was watching a film that has horror to it rather than a horror, which usually does not ever bother to build decent relationships. You feel like you're watching another, CSI or SVU episode where they give you like a heartfelt moment at the beginning and then the horror starts.
But this is the problem. A really good horror film should, because you're not going to care when characters start dying if you don't care about the characters and the relationships. And, well, that's a bad horror then. That's
mostly all I've seen.
No.
Most horrors are bad. As a genre, it's not known for making good films.
I'm going to prove you wrong by the end of this month.
Okay.
We're 2 out of 5 now, and so far you've enjoyed both of them.
That's true. That is true. Though I liked her, I thought her guys were completely incompetent. One's off to eat their chicken and steak, and the other one's listening to music when he's literally supposed to be monitoring things. And he's not. He's just listening to music. What are they doing? They were just so incompetent. And then the next chick she brings in, Zelda Rubinstein.
Yeah.
I know ultimately she leads them to get their children back, throwing the balls in and stuff. That was all very smart, testing it out with, the balls and the rope and stuff. And then the mum goes in and saves her daughter. But then she says at the end, this house is clean.
I love that line. You didn't like it?
Well, I wrote down, how do you know that? And then it's not clean. You didn't do your job, love.
Yeah, look, and that's actually one thing I have with the film. I don't believe this is a poltergeist. And I think that's pretty clear because she describes the difference between a poltergeist and a haunting. She says a poltergeist is more linked to an individual and a haunting is linked to the house and the location.
Yeah.
By the end of the film, it becomes pretty clear it's linked to the house, right?
Yeah.
Because it's built on a cemetery and there's bodies there. Like I don't think it is actually a poltergeist.
Possibly.
And I have very little memory of the sequels, and given that it's the same family, it's quite possible that that's when it becomes clear that it is a poltergeist.
Well, because is it linked to the girl? Is the tree itself haunted, and trying to attack the child. The tree definitely seemed to be possessed in some way. It wasn't just a regular tree in a storm. So were they trying to take the children, and if they couldn't get the boy, then they took the girl instead?
No, I think it's clear from the start that she is some kind of medium.
Right.
You know, she can communicate with them through the TV because
so maybe
not
the
only does she
poltergeist
hear
is
them, she
linked to her.
She talks to them.
She does
in one of the opening scenes. So it's clear that clear that she's
both funny and freaky the way they're just watching her and she's like chatting away to the TV. I'm like, whose kid hasn't done some freaky shit like that?
Oh yeah.
Although I feel fairly confident after taking one of our children, a poltergeist would give them back.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll be like,
this kid.
Yeah, I've had enough of them.
Stop asking for snacks.
Stop asking questions. Stop asking for snacks. Stop asking if you can watch TV. Go away.
So I think it's clear that she's at the very least a medium or linked to the spirits.
Yeah. So maybe the poltergeist is linked to her. I don't know.
Possibly.
You're right, though. It's not actually clear by the end of it whether it's a poltergeist, and perhaps that is a flaw in the film.
It's also just a really cool name, though. There are enough movies called The Haunting. Poltergeist is a sick fucking name.
It slaps, as you would say. I did find her Zelda Rubinstein's a little creepy.
Did you?
Yeah.
I love, like I said before, that line, "This house is clean." I think of that all the time.
I just thought it added another creepy element to it, but she's supposed to be the one helping. I don't know. I think the kind of person that is going to be, for example, performing an exorcism or, you know, assisting in this kind of occult nature, I think they're going to be inherently a kind of creepy person. Like, if this is the career you've chosen, is to deal with ghosts and poltergeists, you're going to be a little creepy. Maybe, I don't know.
But I love it. You know, like, I've been meaning to do this, and I know it would piss you off to no end.
What?
I know that you hate that our house is super smart. I love it.
I'm sick of it.
I know. Do you remember when I used to have it set so that when I came home from work, the Seinfeld theme would start playing when I opened the front door?
I do.
That was fucking great.
And the Make It Sexy time and the fucking red lights would go on and...
Yeah.
What would play? Barry Manilow. Oh, my God.
Yeah. But I should really make it so that when our robot vacuum finishes... The house announces, "This house is clean."
Okay, I'm actually on board with that.
Really?
Yes.
Right.
That is one of the few things I'm on board with.
I am doing that tomorrow.
You pointed out, and I had to agree with you, that the design of the stairs in the house was a really good design. The way they kind of wave up to the top floor.
Yeah, it's a great design because from certain camera angles, it really puts you off. You feel like it's a bit of an optical illusion. You feel like they're moving and kind of bending when I don't think they actually are. I think it's just the way the stairs are designed. And look, I don't know whether they would work in real life. I don't know whether you could actually walk up those stairs and whether they would feel unsteady. It's really hard to say. But on camera, they give a really, really great, interesting look that just puts you on edge. And I think there's a lot of really great camera work in the film. You know, there's quite a few Zolly moves, which we've come to kind of associate with horror films.
What's that?
It's a zooming dolly. You know the scene where she's standing in the hallway and the hallway seems to get longer.
Yes.
What's actually happening there is that the camera is physically moving closer to her while zooming out. So it keeps her at the same focal length while the background is essentially getting wider.
Yep.
And it's a very clever technique. You usually do it when you're focusing on a subject's face. You know, you think of the classic Hitchcock people screaming and the camera moves in on them. It's an interesting technique here to instead, you know, make the background really the focus rather than that main character as she kind of runs
because she's trying to get to her kids.
Hallway.
Yeah.
Really, I think there's some really, really effective camera work in the film.
Yeah. That was the other time I got really scared. I truly jumped, was when she tried to open the door and it's just this roaring, terrifying, wind-blowing sound from, like, why is a door opening so scary? But it was.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
I mean, great sound design in the film.
Yes, yeah. You can tell they used, like, actual lions roaring or something and, I don't know, other creatures. But, yeah, the sound design was excellent and it kind of helped the visual effects that haven't held up look a little better.
What's really clever about the sound too is the way that somehow it manages to allow you to not focus when it's not important. Like, you think of the storm scene, there's no thunder noises until they start counting it.
Really?
But you don't really notice it. Like, I had never noticed it before rewatching it last night because I was kind of paying more attention. There's no thunder noises. And it's funny, because I was looking for it, it felt strange to me that there's all these, these light flashes but no sound to go with them. But it's very clever. It allows you not to focus on that stuff.
Yeah. It was funny though that, Craig T. Nelson's like, look at me, I'm such a good parent. I taught him a trick. And I'm like, yeah, you taught him a trick that only works in your favor if the storm is moving away.
Yeah, the second it starts moving closer,
and then you
again,
see
the kid's
them
freaking out.
Yeah, and then I'm like, you silly Craig T. Nelson. And then you see them both in the parents' bed, and I was like, yep, well, could have warned you. At first, I found the goo that they were covered in after they come through the other side, I suppose. I don't know, very Stranger Things. I found it, I was like, ew, it's like a gentle rebirthing. Yuck. Yeah. And then they're sitting in the bath and you get a close-up shot of it. It's very clearly just like purple jelly, or jello, as Americans would say. It's, I don't know. They really shouldn't have gotten so close. It doesn't look good close up.
I think it holds up pretty well. I think it does its job, which is to look creepy and gross.
I love, though, once again, Stephen being useless. He's like, JoBeth, whatever her name is, wake up. He doesn't give a shit about his daughter who's lying there like on her chest, comatose.
I mean, she's been gone at least a week. He's probably had time to adjust.
A bit of a continuity issue in the film was them talking about how they're getting out of here tonight and they've packed a van full of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you go in their house and pretty much everything's there.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. She's like using the hairdryer and like there's some things like the kids' shelves are empty, but like the lounge room is all
there's pictures on the walls and lamps and stuff, like definitely things you would have packed before. I did think that was kind of terrible. Maybe, I don't know, is that set design responsible in that moment? I'm not sure. Like, everything should have been packed, but the clown's there. Why wasn't the clown packed? Or
why wasn't
quite
the clown
frankly,
in the fucking bin?
Burned alive. Burn the clown.
Yeah, the clown never should have been there in the first place. Like, even before the house is haunted, the clown is freaky as fuck.
Yeah, no one who enjoys a kid buys that for a kid.
No.
Someone hated that kid and bought it for them.
Yeah.
Although the little girl at one point is sleeping with it. Once again, no wonder she's the one who can talk to spirits.
Yeah. So, all right, we're now 2 out of 5 horror films in for the month. Mm-hmm. How does this compare with Invasion of the Body Snatchers for you, and how are you scoring this film?
Yeah, that's tricky. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is definitely a better film. But I think perhaps I enjoyed Poltergeist more. Perhaps it's that 80s, 90s nostalgia. It was just a little more fun. Like, I wouldn't say Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a particularly fun film. It's a really well-made film. It's also kind of depressing, whereas in this, well, I don't know, now knowing there's sequels, perhaps they don't escape, they don't live a happy life. The effects did not hold up anywhere near as well as Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
But I think I would probably choose to watch Poltergeist again randomly over Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't know, I feel like maybe they're both an 8, but in different categories of filmmaking.
That's fair. I'm also an 8 for Poltergeist. I love this film.
Maybe it should be a 7.
I love this film, and I have great memories of watching this film as a kid.
Yeah, this is the kind of horror I would happily introduce our children to once they were old enough to.
Well, let me ask you this then. You watched this because you agreed with me that you would watch the 5 horrors for Halloween for the podcast. Would you, on your own accord, be willing to watch the sequels now after having watched this? Like, were you that involved in the film that you'd happily watch Poltergeist 2 and 3 just for funsies?
As long as they're renowned for holding up and not turning JoBeth into some simpering idiot. Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed her. I think she's the main driver of my love for this film.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. I was thinking next week, how about we get into some vampires?
Oh, I do like vampires.
Yeah.
Vampire Eric?
Not Vampire Eric.
Damn it.
I'm not putting True Blood on. That show went so off the
It
rails.
did. I'm a fucking fairy, and that's when we were out.
Yeah.
I'm a werepanther. Stop.
fucking
That's
a
enough.
werepanther?
Werepanthers. What was that?
Are you kidding me, mate?
But Alexander Skarsgård as a vampire, I mean, that's all any woman wishes for. Bite my neck.
So I'm thinking classic vampires. There's multiple options here, and I don't know which way to go. I mean, obviously, the classic vampire is Dracula, but even then, there's so many different Draculas. Which one do we go with?
I've seen 0% of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, vampires next week. Have you ever seen From Dusk Till Dawn?
Is that the Irish one?
No.
No. No, I don't know it.
All right. All right. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under the handle @wewatchedathing. If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing. A massive shout out to all of our patrons, and especially our new ones from the last couple of months, Dustin Pertzold and Jamie Russell. You guys absolutely rock. And I'll catch you next week.
Never gets old.
We ghost again. It's classic.